The one thing that you have to bear in mind in the process of what we've been doing here is that we've allowed the painting to dry a number of times, which means we've had a day or two in between sessions, so the painting is dry. It's always, excuse me, it's always sort of nice to work at this stage anyway, on to work a wet paint onto a dry surface. It makes the drawing go easier. You're not lifting off paint from the previous day. And remember, if you got turpentine on your brush and the paint's wet, you can lift the paint right off of there. So having a couple of days in between working on this is very helpful. Since I've worked on it last, we live out here on the lake, and I've gotten a real good tan. So my skin colors have changed, which is no big deal at the moment. If I was working on a proper portrait of myself, I would like to have my skin tones maintain some sort of sense of continuity. But I think in this case it's actually quite good, because that sort of thing, you don't want that sort of thing to be a hindrance to you. I want you to always know that it's okay. You can make changes at certain parts of the painting. You're free to make changes, and that's one of the great benefits of approaching a painting like this. You don't have to worry so much. So many people get so worried about the handling of their paint. So, okay, I'm sorry. What I've done is I've renewed all of my line work. I've done one half of the face. This half of the face over here I haven't done. This half of the face I'm trying to get it very accurate. So in the process today, I will repeat the left-hand process utilizing the same palette, and I'll go through and I'll draw this half of it. Thereby, the painting will be hopefully at the end of this, the painting will be accurate in my mind's eye. So let's go over to the palette here, and I'll show you the palette that I've been using up until this point. And I have the palette that I've actually been using, but what I'll do is I'll remix the palette for you. Okay, so you can see exactly how I mix those colors. Okay, a lot of people do ask about that. Okay, so these colors right here are the colors that I'm using at this stage of the painting. Now I've added a few, probably a few new bases here. By base I mean just sort of a tone that's kind of like what I want, not necessarily perfect. Some people really spend all day mixing the perfect colors. I don't do that. I'll show you what I do though. So I've mixed these these colors. These are the colors that I'm using for this drawing. Now we'll go back to exactly what colors are on my palette to mix these colors. One, we have titanium white, Winsor Newton flesh tone, Winsor Newton Naples yellow. Actually, all these particular paints here are Winsor Newton. This is raw sienna, burnt sienna, burnt umber, cadmium red deep. Not just cadmium red deep. It's not so orangey. This is permanent rose, viridian green, ultramarine blue, ivory black. Now maybe this is lamp black. Let me check. No, lamp black. And this is cadmium orange. The cadmium orange I put on there, won't use this as part of my skin tones, but up in the hat area of this painting, I have some brighter orangey colors. Sometimes you want to throw those colors onto the drawing so that you can get a relationship to what they look like with the skin tones. So I put it on there in case I want to throw some up there. Okay, now I'm going to mix these base colors for you so you can see how I would approach it. If I'm if I'm going from one day to the next day and I want to repeat the colors, I want to match the colors. I'll take a little bit of the day before paint, just a little bit on the end of my thing. I'll put it on there, and now I'm going to mix. I'm going to start with flesh tone. I'm going to throw in some raw sienna. There's no particular order to this, but what I've done is I've chosen the first one on my palette, which is sort of a middle tone. And okay, so now it's a bit orangey, a bit goldy. So I'm going to throw in some cadmium red, deep, just a little bit. Work it up and see if my color's heading in the right direction. Okay, it's not too bad. I'm going to throw just a little bit of burnt sienna, a little bit of burnt umber, get it to the browner stage, a little more burnt umber. Now it's starting to look better. Now here I'm going to go to some Viridian. I'm going to throw some Viridian into this right now. Still starting to look better. And when I say looking better, that means getting closer to matching my color from the previous day. I threw in a little bit more flesh tone. It looks a little too weak, a little too yellowy. I'm going to put in some more burnt umber. A little more red. Now remember, this is not, I don't have this all written down. It's good for you to know this. This is not a science. It's all just a visual impression of what I'm seeing in my mind. Is my eye matching these colors? It's not. There's no formula for it. It's all experience. But hopefully through my experience, you can gain some experience of your own. Okay, now I'm sort of matching that over here. And it's a little too dark. I've managed to get a little bit too dark. This process takes a little bit of time. I just threw in a little bit of white there because I felt it was getting too. It wasn't opaque enough. I wanted it to be more opaque. Now we're just about right on. So I'm taking it over here and I'm matching it. Pretty good. I'm going to make it a little bit lighter, a little more flesh tone. Okay, bingo. That's pretty good. Now, when I say pretty good, I mean pretty good. It's not perfect. You can never match the same color twice. At least I can't. Okay. Now that I'm looking at it, I could use a little more red. I'm going to throw a little bit more cad in there. That should do it. Okay. Now then I'll pick up that thing from yesterday and throw it in there. Alright. Okay, that's color number 1. Now, as I'm mixing these colors, these are not perfect skin tones. They're close to my skin tones, the combination of them. But as I'm looking at myself, and I look at myself very carefully in the mirror, I see all sorts of little gradients of color. I see a little, yellow here, a little green here, a little red. Well, when I see those things, I utilize them. I go for them because I figure that's part of the component of my skin tones. So that's why I leave all these colors on here. I'll use these base colors that I have, but if I see a little bit more red, I'll throw a little bit more red into it in a particular spot. That's how you get good skin tones.